Hello and welcome. I hope everyone is doing well. Today, I'm going to be interviewing Toma, and we spoke with her earlier about solar winds. So now we're going to be doing a very excellent deep dive into two technical illustrations that she completed about Log4Shell. And I'm really excited to have her here again. Welcome, Toma, and looking forward to talking with you about Log4Shell.
Hello, Megan, and thank you so much for having me today. Really looking forward to diving into these two illustrations around the Log4Shell vulnerability. So let's get started.
Great.
This is my website, codekernel.com, and this is where you can find my illustrations. I have illustrations around different topics in cybersecurity, but today we are going to focus on the Log4Shell vulnerability, and you can download it for free from my website. And this is the illustration that we are going to discuss today.
Excellent. So in your technical illustration, Log4Shell Explained, when you researched this CVE around the different aspects about the Log4j framework, were there any particular elements that you learned during your research that led you to a deep dive and made it into much more of a technical visual?
Yeah, so I think there are many aspects of this CVE which are better understood in a drawing. One of them is the omnipresence of the Log4j framework in many products that we use every day. Other interesting aspects are the simplicity and accessibility of the POC that at some point was made public. And as shown in the timeline, the vulnerability started to be increasingly exploited by threat actors of all levels. That is script kiddies to nation state level. And after the POC was made public, another interesting thing that I chose to add in the timeline is that the root cause of that vulnerability was discovered in 2016. So that was a couple of years ago. And so I did a little bit of research and found the Twitter accounts of the two researchers who presented the root cause at Black Hat DEF CON. And they one of them actually stated that he felt that he felt the community, the security community, because now that root cause was being widely exploited. And so that we need that as a community, we need to do a better job at being heard and informing, educating everyone on major or critical topics or critical vulnerabilities.
Mm.
So that was really interesting to get his input on Log4Shell. Finally, this trivial to exploit vulnerability is used for both initial access and lateral movement. All of these aspects not only unlocked the doors to even more exploitation and increase the risk level significantly, but also led me to research more on the topic. So
Yeah, it is one of those that we might really see being evergreen in that sense because of the pervasive pieces of it being in so many different systems, and then also the accessibility from the threat actor side of things, and then what can happen once that vulnerability is accessed. I'd love to kind of see you dive into a bit the components investigate, defend, and mitigate. I really appreciated that you had those, and how you determined that this would be the organization for explaining CVE 2021-44228. And I did incredibly appreciate the extra research you did around looking into, who actually came up with the original vulnerability, when they came up with it, as well as thinking through, like, and looking at how those researchers felt about this, because we can feel this weight of responsibility on our shoulders, and how we can work together as a community to help continually drive and improve. So very much so appreciate that research. But if you could dive into that organization around investigate, defend, and mitigate, that would be excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, being a security researcher it's it's a tough job. It's a tough role, because you do have that responsibility that is waiting on your shoulders, and you have to do your due diligence, that so that the right audience is educated on the topic, and that your feedback is included. So yes, it was great to see that they were very prompt and given their input in the discovery, or the widely exploitation of the of Log4Shell. All right, so let's go back to the visual, and let's talk about the investigate, defend, and mitigate sections. The goal of my visuals, of all of my visuals, is to primarily help decision makers at all levels. And what I mean by decision makers at all levels, I am referring to C-suite executives, I'm referring to security leaders, but I'm also referring to anyone that is getting their hands dirty to protect to protect assets on the network. And so if you we are all making decisions in our roles, and so we are all responsible for the decisions that we're making, and that makes us all decision makers. And as a result, we need to understand critical matters. And that is the reason why I created these visuals, is to provide actionable items that will drive your decision-making process. So I try to remain as product agnostic as possible when possible, so that security practitioners have the freedom to decide how to remediate this RC vulnerability within their parameters. Here I am proposing common ways to detect malicious traffic, such as inspecting HTTP and systems for malicious payloads. I also provide examples of the payload, where the payload would be located. Payloads by nature vary a lot. But after doing some research, I realized that there is generally a specific protocols that are declared and used before the payload is processed. So these protocols are supported by JNDI, and they will then trigger the loading of the malicious payload. I also provide IDS/IPS rules. Here you can see snort and SIRT kind of rules. Mm-hmm. These are very popular IDS and IPS technologies, and I found them online. By the way, all of the resources are resources/references that I've used during my research are at the bottom of the visual, and I put them there so that you can do a little more research and a little more reading as well on the topic.
Yeah, and I think that defend and detect piece, right, is so critical, because if we can say these are certain parts that are always or frequently being used, we can set up those defense side of things, and then work on being a little bit more proactive. Hey, is someone in our environment? Are they using these type of behaviors? how can we now defend against that? And so I think that that is really crucial to what any cyber system is working on, right?
Yeah, these are rules that were released at the very early stages of the exploitation of Log4Shell. And so now we're seeing other technologies that have adapted their rules so that they can also detect the exploitation of Log4Shell. But yes, at the very early stages, if you had an IP, if you needed to quickly detect them, these rules were released, and so I just thought that was crucial to add that there so that it can be added in the incident response process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's so important. Thank you again for sharing, Toma. I'll share my catchphrase, Carpe Diem, let's seize the day. And if there's anything else you want to share on your end, please do. Thank you.
Thank you, Megan. See you soon.